Hello, welcome to another Page and Pint video update. I've got 4 books to talk about that I read in July. I'm really excited because 2 of them I really loved. But before I do that, I've got this Coastal Daydream West Coast IPA from Terrapin Brewing Company. Terrapin was one of the original Georgia breweries. There was like Sweetwater, Terrapin, Creature Comforts. I think Creature Comforts was a few years after Sweetwater and Terrapin, but they're owned by Miller Coors now, I think. Which at this point, whatever. I'm not gonna not drink it. It's fine. It's what I expected. I don't love Terrapin's got a really good session IPA called Recreation Ale. I love that one. Everything else, it's hit or miss. They used to have a Mosaic IPA. I don't know if they make that anymore. The beer's good though. It's a West Coast IPA. The citrus and resiny sort of hot profile. Pine. It's good. All right. July reads. First up, I wrote down how to say everybody's name. First up, we've got The Compound by Aisling Rawle. This book's great. Buddy read this with my wife. We actually bought 2 copies. This is her debut novel. It follows a girl named Lily. She is participating in a reality show similar to Love Island, if you've seen that. It's at this compound. You've got to get coupled up. If you don't get coupled up, you're eliminated. There's like group challenges, and then there's individual challenges. And the individual challenges are secret. The other people in the compound don't know. So it kind of sows this sort of distrust amongst everybody. Pretty dystopian. As the story progresses, you kind of learn more and more about the outside world. I didn't know, I thought this was going to be sort of like a thriller. It starts kind of fun, and then there's a, I feel like there's multiple points where I was thinking, is this about to be a horror book? Which it honestly isn't far from. But it's a really good time. I would highly recommend it. Yeah, it's got good commentary on like obviously reality TV. I've seen other people say it's like Black Mirror meets Love Island, which I think makes sense. Again, this was her debut novel, and I'm gonna pre-order whatever she writes next. I don't care what the plot is. I'm excited for a new author like that. Next up, we have Women by Charles Bukowski. I'm not going to spend too much time with this one. I didn't like it. I read Post Office by him. If you don't know, Bukowski is he's mostly known for poetry, but he's written a handful of novels. He wrote Post Office, which I read, which I enjoyed, and that's about his time. Sort of, he's writing books or poetry at the time, but he's also working in this post office, and he's an alcoholic and he's a womanizer, but he's also obviously the book's called Post Office. It's about his job at the post office. There's definitely a couple moments in that book where I was like, ooh, I don't like this. And those moments in Post Office that I didn't like, that's all this book is. It takes place post office. So he's already sort of a recognized writer at this time. So he's got fans writing him and he's meeting up with them, and it's just an inventory of like treating women poorly. That's it. There's nothing to take out of this other than that I could grasp. Maybe I'm not getting it, but I liked Post Office though. So, and I've only heard good things about his poetry. So, and I still haven't read that. So I'll get into that at some point. Oh, next up, I don't have the book. I listened to it on audiobook. I listened to The Wedding People by Alison Espach, and I enjoyed it. I think I didn't love it. I liked it. I partially blame the fact that I listened to it because I feel like when I listen to audiobooks, especially if it takes me a long time to get through, which I think this took me like over a month to listen to, just because I didn't have a lot of stuff I could do where I could multitask and listen. I get less invested, and I feel like that's what happened here. I started reading or listening to this book because it's someone asked my wife what her favorite book in the last year was, and she said The Wedding People. And I was like, well, I'm going to read it. Let's see what it's all about. And I did really like it. It's about this girl, Phoebe, who is checking into this hotel, this like resort. And the only other people at the resort are part of this wedding. She is checking in, though, Phoebe, because she's in a dark spot and she's going to take her own life. So she's doing like one last hurrah at this resort. But she has a run in with the bride to be. And yeah, she kind of gets, without spoiling anything, she's like, she sort of meets the wedding people and the story unfolds. And it's fun. It reminds me of almost like the early 2000s. I wouldn't say rom-com, but yeah, another good summer read. I mean, it's not a light. I'm sort of pitching it as a light read. There's depth to the book, and it covers a lot when it comes to relationships. And I mean, you're talking about a person who was going to end their life and is sort of reanalyzing or taking an inventory of moving forward. As I'm explaining it, I'm kind of realizing why it's good. It's both. It's deep and it dives into relationships and what drives people to do certain things, but it's also just fun and funny. So yeah, highly recommend. I've thought a lot about what I'm about to say, but I'm comfortable saying that this book, Disgrace by J.M. Coetzee, is my favorite book. And it's hard. I don't like using the word favorite because how do you compare like a Western to a thriller to a, classic lit? But I'm still comfortable calling it my favorite. The plot, I'm bad with names, so I have to write down the protagonist's name every time. And I didn't hear. That's great. David Lurie. You have this professor who ends up sleeping with a student, gets caught doing that, and he kind of has to go in front of the sort of college board, and he defends himself, and he's not remorseful about it, and he's sort of exiled for that. And this all takes place in South Africa during the apartheid. He goes to stay with his daughter, who owns this farmhouse. And that's all I'm going to say about the plot. And stuff happens there, obviously. And none of what I said spoils anything. What this book does really well, and if you've read Stoner by John Williams, I would say which was, I would have said top 3 books was Stoner before this. Probably still is. I love Stoner. Very similar in its simplicity. I feel like the decisions that the author made end up making sense the more you think about it after reading it. Something happens in the very beginning that I'm not going to spoil, like within the first 20 pages. When I read it and then the story progressed, I thought, okay, why even include that? I don't really understand. And then when it ended, a few days later, as I'm thinking about it, I realized at least I think, he told that little story beforehand to sort of get the reader to understand that David Lurie doesn't have a good grasp on, I don't want to say women as a whole, but his relationship to women. It's one of those books that when I finished it, I just want to talk to someone who's read it, and I don't know anybody who's read it. So if you've read it and you want to talk about it, I'd recommend it I'm going to recommend it for the rest of my life. I'm going to be annoying about that book. I can tell already. That's it for what I finished. I'm reading Nightmares and Dreamscapes by Stephen King, and I'm almost done, so I'll talk about this next month, but I'm having fun. That's all I'm going to say about that. All right. Cheers.